You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. As a successful motivational speaker and trusted life coach, Nancy knows how you can live the life you want regardless of the challenges you face. Although she's legally blind, Nancy's mission is to inspire others to overcome obstacles and live life full out. Call in at 800-333-0001 to ask Nancy for advice on topics such as relationships, finances, business, health, and more. Just call 800-333-0001. Once again, that's 800-333-0001. And now, here's Nancy.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Living Full Out Show. I'm so excited to be here. Today, we're talking about determination. We all need determination in our life to take action, to accomplish our goals and dreams. And so we're going to focus in on that today. And I want you to think about, what do you want to achieve in your life? How can motivation serve you so that you can be more determined in achieving what you want? And we're going to have an inspirational guest coming up in our next segment, Tony Hoffman. He's going to be talking about his addiction with prescription drugs and other drugs, and how that truly affected his life in taking him off course. So his dreams were slipping away, but then he reclaimed it. He was determined to get his life back on track. He'll share with us his story. Also, if we're taking your calls, the number is 800-333-0001. Again, 800-333-0001. So we're excited to hear from you if you have any questions on how to be more determined in your life. So again, with determination, it is so important that we put focus to the forefront. You know, what do I need to do? What are the action steps that I need to take so that I can live a life purposefully? That's the whole goal. You know, I know for me, and actually today with this show, if you guys could just see behind the scenes, there's a lot of determination here today to get things in place for this show so that we can serve you the best way we can. And I want you to think about today, what can you do to advance yourselves forward? Maybe it's something where you might need to leverage resources in your life. It might be people. It might be time. There's so many things that we have to kind of put into play so that we are able to live our life purposely with that determination. And also, you know, when we think about determination, some people are like, oh gosh, not another thing to do. Don't think of it like that. Think of it like your dreams, your purpose, all of that is inside you. It's not even a struggle. It's not even a work. It's not a job. It's something that you're meant to do. Today, we want to unleash that purpose. We want you to embrace determination so that you can live that purposeful life. Now, we are going to go to the phone lines. We're going to chat with one of our callers and see how we can motivate them today. Hello, welcome to the Living Full Out Show.
Hi.
Hello. Hi, thank you so much for calling in. How can we help you today?
My question was, I had recently just been let go from a job, and most of the managers there were my friends, and they still want to continue to hang out with me, but I'm just still kind of upset about being let go, and I don't know how to not be upset about it.
Well, I get that. So is it your friends who were part of the decision to let you go?
Yes.
Okay, that's tough. That's really tough, and I'm sorry that you're going through that. Did you ask them why?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Did you ask them why?
Yeah, it was just a lack of communication, and I just felt like because they were my friends, I felt like they should have been more open to me about what was going on, but I just felt really in the dark about everything.
Okay, but let's look at it this way. So always remember, friendships are in their own bucket, their own category, right? And work is work. So it's a fine line when we become friends with coworkers, because we have to keep the two separate. We may want to commingle them, but business is business, and sometimes you have to do what's best for the whole team. Now, you sound lovely, okay? So what was the reason for why they had to let you go?
Well, I go to college at Grand Valley, and it's a requirement to work 2 days for exam week. And I had set in my schedule, and I had let them know that I sent it in, but they didn't get it, and they didn't communicate with me as they didn't get it. So I thought everything was fine. And then
you didn't show up,
and been like,
and you didn't show up because you thought they knew. I see. So
yeah.
so here's the thing, and you know this, right? You thought that they knew. They were unaware. You didn't show up. and we don't know what happened that day in terms of lack of support or whatever. It wasn't your problem. You did the right thing, but it was just, like you said, miscommunication. But either way, a lot of times we have to hold everybody to the same standard. Even here at Living Full Out, we have our own company policies, right? It's unfortunate, but the one thing that you did learn from it, that I can kind of share with you, is I would always follow up on those emails. I would always call. And you know that now, right? You're like, I'm never going to chance an email speaking on behalf of me. I'm going to email, I'm going to call. And yes, this job is an important one, but it sounds like you're going to school and it's not that dream job yet. So the good thing is this job taught you a lesson in strengthening your communication, in following up, not just sending an email, but making sure you have a call or a dialogue with someone to really confirm that they got your message, right? So now when that dream job does come, this will never be taken away from you again, because you're like, okay, I got it. I'm going to be all over this, right? And with your friends, I'm sure it was a tough call. They had to make that decision. What I would honestly do is let it go. If you can, let it go. Your life is waiting for you. This was just a bump in the road. Let it go. Embrace your career. Embrace your future. And don't lose friendships over it. They had to make a decision that was a business thing, a policy within the company. It actually had nothing to do with you as a person. Okay?
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for calling in. I can hear in her voice that determination, right? She's determined to find out why and want them to feel bad for letting her go. I felt that, but again, business is business, and that's the determination. Sometimes has gray zones that we have to be careful of. So, again, we're going to go back to the phone lines, talk to one of our callers. Hello, welcome to the Living Full Out Show. Hello, hi,
Hello.
Thank you. Hi, thank you for calling in. What's going on? How can we help you?
It's my pleasure.
Yeah.
So, yes, and I have a question for you.
Yes.
As an elderly man, I'll be pushing 83 shortly. How do I respond and stay current with changes in technology and the media that confront me?
Well, first of all,
constant period of change, of course, and of course, being elderly, I'm not too excited about changes or confronting changes to begin with.
Well, you know what? First of all, you don't sound 83, so that's on an up note, right? So 83 is just a number. Right? So you're on one spectrum. You're 83, but then there's some kids these day and age who might be 4 or 5, and they're learning technology, right? So age is just a number.
Sure.
What you want to look at is you want to take the fear out of technology and just know that, do what you can. Right? I mean, I'm legally blind, right? So there's a lot of technology that I have a hard time seeing. So even within my own world, there's things I can do, and there's things I just have to let go of and go, you know what? I'll never be able to see that, I'll never be able to do that. The reality is what the reality is, right? So just do what you can. Now, what I would do is it's a moment for you to have somebody teach you. Like, let's say it's Facebook. Do you have a Facebook account?
I'm sorry, you're out on me.
That's okay. Like, for example, Facebook, right? Do you use Facebook?
Right.
So Facebook
I'm sorry, Nancy, again.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. No worries. So my advice is this. If, for example, Facebook is something that you want to learn, it's an opportunity for you to have someone in your life, teach you how to use Facebook. And now that can kind of be a fun thing that the two of you can kind of share in, learning together and communicating. If we can make technology a fun activity and not so scary, then we're able to embrace it in an active way, in a way that doesn't feel like another to do. And also with the media, sometimes we just have to shut it down. I think we're bombarded with social media and TV. Again, soak up what you want to. You have the ability, you have the control to say, I'm going to turn that TV, that radio, that social media on, or I'm going to turn it off. Always remember, you have the control, right?
Right.
So
have to maintain control, right?
Yes. And again, don't be fearful of the technology. Make it a joyous time. This is exciting. New ways to communicate with people. But I really, appreciate you calling in, and can't wait to hear. Call back in. Let us know how it goes.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you so much.
Have a good day now.
You
Bye.
too. Bye. So again, love that he's calling in about the determination to learn technology, to embrace it. When we talk about determination, when we talk about what is required to go after what we want in life, it's going to take thinking things through. But if you put the action steps in place, you're always going to come out the other end with that desired result. It might take time, it might take learning, but you will get there. I want everybody to stay with us. We're going to come back after this commercial break with Tony Hoffman, our inspirational guest for today. Again, this is the Living Full Out Show, and we will be right back.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. A professional motivational speaker, Nancy can help you overcome obstacles and start living full out. Call in with questions live at 800-333-0001. Once again, that's 800-333-0001. And now, here's Nancy.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Nancy Solari, and this is the Living Full Out Show. And today we're talking about determination and the fact that you really need that in your gut, in your soul, to sometimes take you to where you need to go, and even sometimes to get you out of a really rough patch in your life. And talk about a rough patch. Our next guest here, our inspirational guest for today, Tony Hoffman. He is no stranger to rough times. He actually had an addiction with prescription pills and all different sorts of drugs. And he was a professional BMX racer, and the determination that he needed to get his life back on track, to push those drugs out of his life and take back the control in his life. It's quite a story. So I'd very much like to welcome Tony to the show. Hello, Tony.
How's it going?
Hi.
How are you?
I am good. I'm good. Hey, so there's so much to your story, so I'm going to just kind of jump right into it, okay? I want to take our audience back a bit, because when you grew up, as a youngster, really, third grade, you name it, you were always athletically skillful at everything that you did. Can you share with us kind of, what your activities were like, and who were your mentors growing up? Because that was a big indicator into kind of your attitude and your whole way that you kind of carried yourself during that time.
Right. And looking back, I didn't realize, until later in life how much athletics played a part in my life. And really, it was basketball, baseball, football, soccer, rollerblades, skateboards, BMX bikes, tennis, volleyball. I mean, it really didn't matter what the sport was. I was so, just into sports. It took me away from life. I didn't feel stressed out. But I also found out that I was naturally gifted, and so I played all of these sports and excelled at an extremely rapid rate, to the point that, a lot of these coaches in different sports wanted me on their team. And in elementary school, I remember one time I was in fourth grade, and I was the ball boy for the basketball team because I couldn't play yet on the basketball team. And the wrestling coach, because you can start wrestling at fourth grade, wanted me to come out and try for wrestling. And the basketball coach and the wrestling coach actually got in a fight at school, like a screaming match, over, leave him alone, he's a basketball player. Well, I want him to wrestle, and so, I had this gift in these sports, and that was what I did. I played sports. That's the only thing I knew. I didn't like school. I struggled with, authority, because I always wanted to do things my way, and that kind of, played into the people I looked up to. But it was kind of funny that, the segment really talks about determination, because I had a basketball coach in elementary school, and in third grade, he made me write down every single day on a piece of paper intensity and determination. And I had to know how to spell them, and I had to know the definitions of them. And he said that it would take those two things to be successful in life. And I remember once I had them down and I could, define both of them and spell them both correctly, he had called me into his sixth grade class, and, I told everybody what intensity and determination was, and he kind of was starting to put me on this pedestal. But I think the biggest issue I had was the mentors that I was looking up to, and those were sports stars on TV. I never really gravitated towards like the Jerry Rice or the Steve Young or the Steph Currys that are, humble on the mic and grateful for their talent, hardworking champions. I looked up to more flashy athletes like Randy Moss, Allen Iverson, Terrell Owens, Latrell Sprewell, Dennis Rodman, Charles Barkley. These are all faces that when you if you ask the average person that may know a little bit about them, they'll probably talk about their attitude and the things that they did that were kind of against the rules. And so I started looking up to these people because I felt like I identified with their gift, their exceptional talent in sports. And I said, that's me. That's who I want to be. I want to be Randy Moss, sitting next to a black Ferrari after he just got fined $30,000 in the NFL, and he's on ESPN, and they ask him about the $30,000 fine, and he proceeds to tell them that he makes so much money every single week they could fine him $30,000 and he'll still be richer than most people. And for some reason, I just gravitated towards this. You can do whatever you want because you're so good at sports, people will need you. But I didn't realize how destructive later in life that kind of attitude would actually play in to my choices.
Well, and it's interesting. You were pretty much walking on water. You could do no wrong because you were kind of a star athlete to your peers, to your coaches, and BMX racing. That early on became a love for you as well.
Right. I was actually kicked out of school in 7th grade for getting a girl marijuana. And that's actually how I found the bike. My brother was racing BMX for like a year or two at the time. I was in 7th grade. And my parents said, you're coming out to the BMX track with us from now on. You're not going to be going and doing whatever you want anymore. And so I started going out to the BMX track. And my dad said, hey, you got a bike at home. Why don't you jump on this bike? If you like it, we'll get you a better one. And that was the beginning of BMX. I was 7th grade, got on the bike, fell in love with it, and took it all the way through high school.
Now it's interesting. Here you were, athletically gifted, a lot of promise for your future. Yes, you did sell marijuana at 7th grade, but you could have taken a different path. You could have stayed in the lane of success, but you took that kind of entitlement and it kind of led you into the wrong crowd, right?
Right. No, yeah, because I didn't appreciate the people that sacrificed and made the right choices. I always found myself around people that were like-minded, entitled, and felt like they were invisible and did whatever they wanted. And because of that, when I started to step away from the bicycle, my senior year in high school, I was offered a job in San Diego, California. I gave up on the bike and I started going to house parties. When I started going to house parties, then I started seeing the drinking and the smoking weed. And it didn't take long for things internally to kind of shift, and me say to myself, I want to try it just one time. Just one time. That's exactly what I told myself. I'm just going to try smoking weed one time. But I didn't realize that was really going to open the door and set the tone for, the next 5 years of my life, where I would go from one drug to the next. And the experimental phase of just doing it one time would actually lead me to prescription painkillers. And at 18 years old, you think because it comes from a doctor that it's safe. Right. But you don't realize that those prescription painkillers like Oxycontin, Percocet, Dilaudid, Vicodin, those are basically pharmaceutical-grade heroin packaged in an orange bottle that makes you feel like it's safe. But it's the same stuff that you buy on the street from the cartels.
Well, and it's interesting because that phrase, one time, right? It just takes one time to open up a can of addiction that's just waiting, simmering underneath, beneath all this talent that you had. Now, Tony, I want you to stay with us because your story has a lot more to it that we want to share, and we have to go to a commercial break. So, everybody, when we come back, we're going to continue our interview with Tony Hoffman. Again, this is the Living Full Out Show, and we'll be right back after this break. Welcome back to the Living Full Out Show. I am Nancy Solari, and today we're talking about determination. And our inspirational guest, Tony Hoffman, we're continuing our interview with him, and he was even saying that determination was a theme in his life early on. He was gifted in athletics, but then found himself addicted to all sorts of drugs, and now we're going to actually leap into that part of the story. So I'd very much like to welcome Tony back to the show.
Thank you.
Hi.
It's good to be here.
Great. So you were sharing with us how when you got transferred to San Diego, California, that's when you started to go to the parties, and that's when you were introduced to these higher level drugs. And I'm just curious, did you find out pretty quickly that you were addicted? I mean, was there a certain feeling? Like some people go out and they have a glass of wine, right? Or, maybe they have a cigarette, or maybe they might do a drug once in a blue moon, but they don't have that addictive personality. What did you feel inside your body that made you need to have it?
it wasn't until probably close to the very end that I actually realized, I have a problem. In the beginning, I was just being like everybody else, right? That's what everybody else was doing that was around me. And as I stated earlier, pills that came from a doctor didn't seem like they were more serious. They just seemed like they were pills that you could swallow or crush and snort and get high on, and there would be no repercussions. I was 18 years old when I was first introduced to OxyContin. By the time I was 23, I was homeless. It wasn't until I was homeless that, I knew that I was really in trouble, that I couldn't get off. It didn't matter what I tried, that I was, bound to using these drugs and having to get through my day only based on these drugs that I was using. I mean, at 21 years old, I started at 18. Within 3 years, I had committed a home invasion robbery and robbed a woman at gunpoint for her prescription painkillers. And even then, at that point, I would have said, I can stop if I want to.
Well, let's talk about that day, too, because your addiction had gotten to a place where you and your friends needed more. I mean, you didn't have it, you needed it, and you knew robbing this lady was a bad idea. But yet,
right.
you paid the punishment, right? You went to jail, you went to prison, and
right.
and so take me through that decision process.
Yeah, that's one that everybody would kind of want to know about, right? Is how do you go to that? And here I'm using these pills that are essentially doctor grade heroin, probably better in most cases, at least on the West Coast, than the heroin you can get. And when you stop using these things, you go through the same exact withdrawals that you would go through while using heroin. And that was the problem. When you go through the withdrawals, I tell kids or audiences that I speak to around the country, imagine the worst flu that you've ever had, multiply that by 1,000, and then there's one little piece to it that makes it tricky, and that is, if you can get the drug, the worst flu you've ever had times 1,000 will go away instantly. And so knowing that it'll go away instantly, that's what changes a person. That's what causes people to break into houses. That's what causes people to do robberies. That's what causes people to do these weird things for drugs, because you know that this feeling that you're experiencing can be alleviated by putting this drug in your body. And so my family had kicked me out of the house when I came back home from San Diego, and I was living at a house with kids that I went to school with that were all hooked on OxyContin, cocaine, and smoking weed all day. And we were going through withdrawals, and we knew that inside this house, a friend of ours' mother had a high volume of OxyContin that he was stealing from her originally, and was caught. So she started locking him up, and we couldn't get him from him anymore. So we knew that since we hadn't got them from her, that we could go inside the house and there would most likely be pills. And because of the withdrawals, we were stupid enough to make that decision to end those withdrawals. And I knew going into it, it was a bad decision. I knew it.
Well,
fact, we turned around.
Well, I was going to say though, it's kind of interesting. I mean, you did do it. You didn't get caught right away, but you didn't end up going to prison, obviously, and you ended up kind of paying for that crime. But it's interesting, going cold turkey, because when you went to prison, you couldn't do the drugs, right? You kind of, that in some way was a weaning off process. But for everybody listening, here's where the journey gets kind of interesting. You go to prison, you're getting weaned off drugs, but then you end up getting transferred to another part of the prison where everybody in there was doing drugs. Share with us about that, because that was a moment where your integrity was challenged, but this time you made the right decision.
Right. When I first got to prison, I don't know, I had a huge spiritual experience that gave me a shift in perspective. And so I started to see prison as an opportunity for me to get out of the situation that I was in and start my life over. And not only do that, but become more successful than I'd ever been, because I wanted to use the negative experiences I've had as positive fuel in the world. And so the first 9 months that I was in prison, there were no drugs. The prison was actually run very well. The cops probably did more than they needed to do to keep the yard clean. But when I got transferred to Avenal State Prison from Tehachapi, about 9 months into my prison sentence, when I got on the yard, I could just see that everybody was high. You could just see the faces. You know, you come from a sober yard where everybody's sober, then you come to a prison yard where everybody's high, and I walk inside my dorm room, and there's just billowing with the weed smoke, and the cops are sitting in this dorm room filled with weed smoke. I'm setting up my bed, and immediately as I'm setting up my bed, I'm watching the neighbors that are next to my bed shooting heroin, all sharing a needle. And I knew right then and there that, as you said, my integrity was going to be tested. And really it was, how bad do you want to get out and do the things that you've been dreaming to do for the last 9 months? And those last 9 months, I had been dreaming about starting a program for kids, a nonprofit organization, becoming a public speaker and sharing with audiences around the country my story. I wanted to go to the Olympics, and I wanted to race my bike professionally. I wanted to get back on my bike when I got out. And I wanted that more than I wanted the drug. And I watched these people shoot dope every single day. The dorm room smelled like weed every single day. And my heart broke for the people. Because finally, for the first time in my life, that stuff didn't have control over me. That stuff didn't have a power over me. But I knew the power that it had on every single person that was in there sharing needles. I mean, when you go to prison in California, they tell you 75% of the inmates have Hep C. 16% are documented HIV cases. That's only documented. So when you're sharing a needle, you are for sure injecting yourself and getting Hep C and have a good possibility of getting HIV. And I'm watching all this, and I'm saying, you know, thank God that I'm not in this situation anymore. You know, I'm going to have a whole new life for me.
Well, and it's interesting, that word that you were given as a child, determination, was creeping up again, right?
Right.
You knew
right.
that you had to have the determination, the willpower to say, I'm not going to have it, quote, quote, one more time. I'm not going to have it, to get your dreams back on track. Now you get out of prison, right? Mm-hmm. And it's not like you have bunches of money in your pocket. It's not like you have that Olympic, career, at your fingertips. Right. You had to work for it. What was that like?
You know, I had my mom and dad. They came back in my life. That was all I had. And they'll testify that, they didn't throw money at me. They didn't make any of my dreams happen, that, I had to go out and work for it. They supported my racing to get me to the races. But outside of that, I had to do all of my training and stuff. It didn't matter if it was raining, if it was 110 degrees outside, I worked my butt off. I showed up to my first professional BMX race that I'd ever raced. I hadn't touched a bike in 7 years, 5 months after getting out of prison, and I took third place. The first year that I was back on the bike, I won 5 races at the lower pro division. There were some guys that had been in the lower pro class for 3 years and had not won 5 races. I came in, I won 5 races. I moved up to the Olympic level. I got invited to the Olympic Training Center as somebody that potentially could have the ability to make the Olympics. So I partook in some Olympic camps, and I started public speaking around 2010. In 2011, I started working with kids using the BMX bicycle at first. In 2012, I started my nonprofit organization called the Free Will Project, which is an action sports mentoring organization. We use skateboards and BMX bikes. We have after-school programs and summer camps. But to build all of that...
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, you were building the momentum, but I have a question for you, quick question, sure. Because we are kind of towards the end of our interview here. What is it that's kept you back in that success lane again? Because I'm sure amongst all those, accolades and great things that you achieved, there were those moments where you were stressed out, where you were, challenged. And there's always knowing that with that addictive personality that you had and knowing that you could just take one puff, one pill, and it would take you back to that warm, fuzzy place. What's kept you in that success lane?
I think it's really finding my path. I believe that everybody has a path. And our path is kind of determined by our passions, our experiences, and our gifts. And for me, I realize that my path has to do with athletics, has to do with my passion to help people, and it has to do with my gifts through athletics or speaking with people. And that doesn't mean I don't want to quit. There's times when I've wanted to quit. There's things that have happened to me that, I can't explain, that, feel like a failure inside. But I tell people it's okay to want to quit as long as you don't. That's the important part, right? But I'm on my path.
I love it.
I know that what I'm doing right now is why I'm alive. I tell kids when I'm holding a microphone, I'm here to hold this microphone, and this is what my life's purpose is. If I step away from this purpose, I won't live. I was shooting shooting dope with gutter water in 2006.
Well, but really, everybody who is an addict of some kind, they all have a purpose. They may not become speakers, they may not become racers, but they may become a father. They may become just great at the career that they're in. It's just tapping into that purpose. And honestly, Tony, you are just living full out every day, and I'm so proud of you and staying clean and all of that. So I want to thank you so much for being on today's show. And everybody, that was Tony Hoffman, and we'll be thinking of you and wishing you great success here as the year goes along. Okay? So that was a wonderful interview. Thank you, Tony. And so when we come back, we're going to be taking your calls. So again, that number's 800-333-0001. This is the Living Full Out Show, and we'll be right back after this break. Having determination in your life is a strong key to getting yourself out there to live full out. But it's not always something that we have right away. Sometimes we have to let it simmer, let it build within us. But when you couple your passion, your desire, everything that you want in life with determination, that's when amazing things will happen. You just got to hone into what your purpose is, what are your goals, what are your dreams, and put together a plan of action with that determination so they can come true.
Listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. As a certified life coach, Nancy can help you to overcome challenges and start living full out. Call in with questions live at 800-333-0001. Once again, that's 800-333-0001. And now, here's Nancy.
All right. Thank you for joining us again. This is the Living Full Out Show. I'm Nancy Solari, and today we're talking about determination. And boy, do I need that. On some mornings, my determination is with a sip of Mountain Dew. Sometimes that's just what I need to get through the day. On other days, though, I think about you, all of you, and that fires me up, knowing that I can sit here and be of service and help to motivate you. That's determination. So you want to think about what is it that you need in your life to give you that extra energy, that zest, that determination so that you can pursue your passions, that purpose in your life. And so that's what we want to kind of concentrate on here in the last segment of the show, so we can give you that empowerment to take action in your life. In fact, we're going to go to the phone lines now and talk to one of our callers. Hello, welcome to the Living Full Out Show. Hello. Hi. Thank you for joining us. How can we help you today?
Yes, I have a terminal ill father that is battling with lung cancer, stage 4. And I was just wondering, how can I continue to be strong for the rest of my family?
And this is your father?
Yes.
Oh, well, you know what? First of all, I'm so sorry, and I'm going to be thinking about your dad all day. My dad actually had lung cancer. He's no longer with us, but I remember the same walk that you're on right now. And the thing is, when somebody is going through cancer, all they want to do is feel as normal as possible. So the best thing that you can do is just be you. The beauty is you don't need to do anything more than just be you, and just try to keep things normal and try to really take in those special moments. And it's not about your dad or my dad, the day that they may not be with us, because again, we're all going to go at some point, right? It's just the reality.
Yeah.
But it's just about making every day count. And so, what's your dad's name? Thomas. So what is something that Thomas loves doing with his family? What would just bring him the most joy?
Just sitting around with all the kids, with all the grandkids, us just laughing and talking and playing dominoes and checkers.
Awesome. Give me your address. I'd love to join. Sounds good, right? I want to play. I love dominoes. Okay. So see, you want to do as much of that as possible. Okay. Thomas gets to pick the game. What do you want to play, right? Or maybe introduce new games. And just try to do as much of that as you can. And even routine if you can, right? Because when somebody's going through cancer, they want to hold on. They want to know that they can count on things, the bright moments in the week, in the day, in the month. And so maybe it's every Friday. Maybe it's one Friday a month, to get everybody together. And the other thing too, is when you're with your family, obviously you have all these amazing memories that you've created. try to see if you or you can influence your children or even grandchildren, anybody, to call him more often and talk about those memories. You know, it's just important to fill that person up with the warmth that only family can bring. So, because I believe that it's not like we can heal cancer necessarily, but I do believe that the warmth of your family, those memories, the things that he can count on, the laughing, the fun, the dominoes, that's what's going to soothe the pain, the fear of cancer.
Right.
And the great thing is, all you need to do is be yourself to achieve that.
Okay.
You see that? Awesome.
All right.
Well, have a fun time playing dominoes. Like I said, I'll send you my address if it ends up to being a bigger party than the family. I'd love to come.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Awesome. You have a great day, okay? Thank you for calling in.
You too. All right.
Thank you. So, today has been such a great show. I really appreciate all the callers that have called in. They've opened us up to what's going on in their life and some really tough moments. We need that determination. We need that support. And that's why we do this show each week, so that we can be here to help pick you up when you fall, to just be a helping hand, to give you something sturdy to hold on to once a week. But the great thing is, just like our last caller, the answers are always inside of you. Always remember that. It isn't that you have to be anything more than you are. It isn't that you have to say the right things or do the right things. It's all already inside you. That determination, it's kind of like a fire that you just need to turn up. You don't need to find it. You've never lost it. It's right there. Just got to turn it up. And then when you turn up that intensity and you match that with the desire to maybe make change in your life occur or really go after that dream like you've never had before, that's when you'll be living full out. That's what it means to live full out. Our entire family here at Living Full Out, we got Carrie and we got Mindy and Rich and everybody on the team who puts the show together. We come here, there's a lot of setup, let me tell you, but we come here every week because we want you to have that support. And we will be back next week with, another great show, more guests, taking your calls. But again, remember, it is so important that you keep that determination near and dear to your heart, and that you remember that your life is worth it, and that anything that you want to achieve can be achieved. And if you want to hear today's show again, you can always go to livingfullout.com, click on the radio show tab. You can actually hear our show live the same way. And if you have an inspirational story that you would like to share with us, we'd love to hear from you, or questions or concerns. We'd love for you to reach out to us at connect@livingfullout.com. So I wish you all a wonderful day. Go out there, be determined, and live your life full out, more than you ever had before. We believe in you. See you next week.